morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. This is Thomas and Will from the Knowledge Point team. The main intention of this meeting is to start almost like a conversation of best practice sharing. So Will, who's joining me today, is working in Knowledge Point's marketing team, and I'll let him introduce himself a bit later on. But the main intention is that we get to tap into some of Will's knowledge about how you build marketing campaigns, find the right target audiences, and how to think about it. So Will is going to present. There will be opportunities to ask questions or add your feedback to the content. We have muted the phone lines initially, but if there are a lot of questions, we can actually open the phone lines as well as we go through this. But Will kick us off, and please feel free to add your feedback and input to this. We are, as you may have seen in this invitation email that we sent out, is that we're intending to add more sessions like this further on. So this is a starting point. If you don't hear everything that you were looking for today, then there's opportunity to come back and kind of join a similar forum moving forward. So that's kind of the intention. And the idea is to set to not necessarily come with a pre-packaged, this is how you should do it, but rather give some good, share some best practice and give some tips and tricks. And then, of course, it's individual how you decide to apply this in your businesses. But that can be part of that follow-up. So with that introduction, I'd now like to hand over to Will, and I'll let you both introduce yourself and take us through the first part of this conversation.
Thank you very much. So hello, I'm Will. I'm in the marketing department at Knowledge Point. So what we'll do is we'll cover two things today. We'll go over identifying target markets, and then we'll also do best practices for how to reach them. So this is sort of a bit of a whistle-stop tour, and it's quite top level. So you may have specific questions for your region, for your products and your offering. But as Thomas says, just pop those in the questions and we're going to go back to those later. So if it's going to play ball, we're going to start with identifying target markets. So what we'll cover is market segmentation, market research, and a target market persona. Throughout this series, we're doing sort of different sections, different things, but you'll need to view them as building blocks. So you need to start with the market research to really understand your customers, how they work and how they think, to then be able to reach them effectively. So we'll have a Q&A at the end of this section, so submit your questions as you go. So what is market segmentation? The best analogy of market segmentation is like having an orange as a whole and dividing up into small bite-sized chunks. So it's dividing your market into smaller, more defined categories. Some of these categories can be demographic, geographic, psychographic, and behavioral. So demographic. Demographic is one of the most popular ones and commonly used. It's very easy to determine your target market with this. So this will be determined by age, gender, location, and a lot of this data can be found through census and online. So here you go. Age, education, gender, company size, industry, job. These are all quite simple and widely used, and they're often used in promotion materials such as Facebook or LinkedIn. So an example would be a 28-year-old male who went to the University of Bath and studied architecture, and they work in a company size of 1 to 10 people in architecture, and their job function is a junior architect. So geographic, this one's quite simple, it is location. So this could be the town, the country, the radius around a postcode, or an area or location. This can often be good for if you're doing a workshop or a physical event. You only want to target people that would be in a certain radius so they can actually reach that event or workshop. So an example would be they live in the UK, they live in Manchester. Psychographic, so this one's slightly more conceptual, but it's about the factors that influence them and how they think. So if you understand how your target market thinks, you will know how to better reach them. And this can be one of the more direct ways of appealing to your market when advertising. So this can be brought down to their personality traits, their values, their attributes, interests, lifestyles, psychological influences, subconscious and conscious beliefs. So like I said, maybe not as quantifiable, but if you can really understand this, then you can really reach your target market. So an example of this would be someone that's motivated and engaged. They have a focus on personal growth and are willing to learn. They're adaptive and they're interested in technology and arts. They hold high career aspirations, and in 10 years, they want to own their own firm and work on new builds. Behavioral, this is how people behave and act. So this will be how you get in front of your target market. This will be their interests, what they look at, where they're often hanging out, or what they look at online. So this will be their purchasing habits, their spending habits, their user status, and their brand interactions. So an example of this would be their purchasing habits. They predominantly download software and purchase gaming software. Their spending habits, they want to invest in themselves and invest in things that bring value. Apologies. And their brand interactions, they may read Architecture Digest and watch top YouTube gamers. So once you've got these ideas and your preconceived conceptions of who your target market is, and you've segmented it, you now need to go and research it to find out the data, the numbers, and the quality behind it. So some of the best ways to do it is with surveys and interviews, if you can actually get face-to-face with them, or this can be done digitally. Also, observations are very good ones if you are running workshops or any online events. Google Trends can often be a good place to find searches and Facebook demographics. So a target market persona. You may have noticed throughout this that all the answers and all the examples had a theme. So when you build your target market, what you want to do is create a person from it. So then when in your business or to yourself and when you're promoting, you can speak of that persona and everyone will understand exactly who you're talking about and how to reach them. So you want to give them a name, you want to give them a personality, and you want to know what their interests are and where they're based. So our examples that have run through have led us to Frank, who is a 28-year-old male who's a junior architect that lives in Manchester. He works hard at his job and he's interested in digital art and design, as well as CAD softwares. And he has a full gaming and graphics setup in his home, and he uses his paycheck to purchase more hardware and software. He's aspirational and wants to own his own architecture firm within the next 10 years. So that's a bit of a whistle-stop tour of target markets and how to identify them. So if you've got any questions on those or anything we'd like to revisit, pop that in the Q&A, and then we'll probably move on to the slightly more exciting planning and selecting the right channel tactics. So these are some of the next sessions going forward that we just thought we'd cover quickly. So we're now on session 2, which is planning and selecting the right channels. And then we'll have how to utilize social media and the best practices and the power of case studies and testimonials. So we'll cover media, owned, earned, and paid for, goals, and tactics. And again, a Q&A at the end. So media can come in 3 main forms: paid, owned, and earned. Paid for is anything that has a financial cost attached to it. This will be advertising, direct mail, paid for searches, paid for promotions, sponsorships, events, anything that has an extroverted cost with outside of the business that you will spend money on. Earned is slightly harder. This will be through ones that gain over time as your business builds and you gain a reputation. This will be things like word of mouth, organic social media, public relations, forums, and organic searches. We then also have owned, which are things that the business owns itself. This would be your website, your subscription, your newsletter, your brochure, and your apps. So when starting out and marketing and advertising, it's important to set a goal. And this goal needs to be realistic, obtainable, and achievable. So you want to have a goal, so at the end of the campaign, you can go back and see if you've reached it or not. So here are 17 examples that you could have as an objective. So it could be to increase a pipeline, to increase traffic, break into new markets, or retain existing customers. So tactics. you need to create a tactical mix. And this is done, again, through building blocks. So back to your target market, who do you want to reach and who are your target personas? Then you need to think how they behave. What media do they consume and where do they get their information and their motivation from? And then you need to choose what is the right tactical channel you should select and how do you reach that target market? And also importantly, how much money do you want to spend? So when creating a promotion, these are the essentials for your content. You need to have a clear message with creative execution. It needs to target your audience and have media with it. If you don't have any one of these aspects, then your promotion will likely fail. And equally, if you just focus on one, you will exclude the others and you may not reach them. So this is one of the core items to focus from this workshop. So social media, we'll cover this lightly as we're going into much more detail in a later one. But if you wanted to access B2B, so business to business, we'd recommend LinkedIn, and business to consumer, this would be Facebook, Instagram, and also LinkedIn. EDMs, or email direct marketing, can be a great way of reaching your potential customers. It can give them more information and can get more directly in front of them. So when doing an email direct marketing campaign, what you need to think is what is your ideal acquisition journey? You need to think of designing the series and the goal, give them information throughout the email campaign. All you want to do is convert it into clicks. So you don't want to give away too much information, as in the user would then read this and know everything. You want to draw them in, and this is done with a call to action. So it's all about pushing markets from the email where you can't contact them as an individual to then bringing them in as leads. So this brings us to your website. I think this is one of the main foundations, as you need to have a clear message to all your potential customers. You need to use individual pages to appeal to different target markets, and depends what people are looking to use the CAD software for. You need to show value in an exciting and visual way, so people are interested and engaged. It's no use having just a big block of text which explains everything, as people won't remember it. And one of the most important things about your website is you need to remember that everything will point towards it. So your website will appear on Google, your emails, your social media, forums, outreach, posters, anything you do will bring everyone to your website. So if this core foundation isn't there, this will be one of the main focus points to work on. It's an example of a really good website. This is Unity Learn. Autodesk equally have a very strong one. And it's just really clearly showing where the users are going and what they're doing. So identifying your skill levels, what you want from it, and projects like that. So it's important to think of the user journey and how your users will go through to find the information they need. So search engine optimization, or getting to the top of Google. This is one of the more important ones, and it's very competitive, but you need to be very careful to do it the correct way. So plugins are a very good way of increasing your SEO. If you have a WordPress site, then plugins will help you boost it. We recommend Yoast Premium, which is a very good one, and will give you boosters and tips on how to obtain higher. If you use other builders such as Squarespace or Wix, they also have SEO functions, so you should definitely utilize those and take the key points. Blog posts are something you should do regularly and use different key phrases. So these are phrases that you want to trend on. For example, CAD design architecture. That would be your phrase with then maybe a geographical term on the end. So CAD design architecture UK. And then you'd write a blog post about that with this word dropped in organically throughout it. There's millions of things on the internet on how to write a successful SEO blog post, because it can be quite time consuming. So we won't fully go into that now. Backlinking is probably one of the most effective ways to trend well on Google. However, if you get it wrong, it can have negative effects. You can be unlisted from Google. So we recommend possibly hiring people to do this. You can find people on People Per Hour, Fiverr, and a lot of other freelance websites. So pay-per-click, or PPC, is a really good way to trend as well. These will be the ones you see on Google at the top with ad next to them. But what you need to do is fully understand it before you engage in this, because they can be quite costly and expensive to get leads. So we recommend using Google Garage to gain a basic understanding of how it works and how Google trends. When doing AdWords, as I said, it can be extremely competitive. So you need to choose the right words for your business. You don't want to just trend for volume, you want to trend for targeting. And this will where it comes back to your target market of how do they think, how do they act, what do they search. Communities and forums can be a great way to build your audience in a vital way to sell your products. You can create them through events and outreach, and some areas you may want to focus are architecture and gaming, and possibly virtual reality. So this can be a good way of engaging your community and creating them, because it works much like social media if you have a captive audience, but this way they are physically engaged and they are viewing and talking to you. So here's an example of one done recently. This was a meetup event with over 100 people, and it had a waiting list of about 20 or 30, and it was hosted in London. It had what are the career paths, how can you access training, what paid for training is there. So it didn't work directly as a promotional event, but what it did do is it engaged the following, and it let people know what opportunities and what training there is out there, which will then later convert to leads. Referral and word of mouth. This is much harder, and as we speak before, one of our earned ones. But if you do business well, it gets you more business. Having people having a positive experience will refer your business and talk to others about it, especially in an industry like this, where people want to gain a competitive edge. Maybe once they then have obtained the career they want, they mention this to others to further theirs. So ways you can do this digitally can be Google My Business and Trustpilot. You can also use referral schemes and skills groups and forums. And also it's worth saying that Knowledge Point is soon to relaunch our Autodesk area of our website, so we will be promoting profiles. Events, as mentioned before, can be a great way to get in front of people and show them what you're selling and your training. At the moment, this may not be possible, but depending on which country you're in, you may be able to do this. So getting in front is a really interesting way and can actually engage them as you have them face to face. Some of our suggestions could be architecture events, gaming events, and also student careers. Public relations and press releases can generate earned online and offline coverage. This is a very interesting one, but it's not guaranteed because you need to have something that is insightful and interesting to your audience. So one of the ways we recommend doing this is building a relationship with blogs and trade associations that have a following in your market. Have a hook, have something that's interesting and that will get your audience to read. Also use stats and information to encourage it and back up your posts. Advertising is a good form of paid media. And again, this goes back to what do your target market do and what are your behaviors? So this can be done in many different ways. You could do magazines such as gaming, architecture, travel and development, trade associations, you can do it online, offline, radio and TV. The main point to consider here is what is the right media for your target. And also make sure you follow Knowledge Point on LinkedIn to stay up to date on any news that we have and any updates as we do post about Autodesk and what's going on there. So that was quite a quick whistle-stop tour through some of the options and through some of the target markets that we have. So we'd now like to open up for any questions or anything people would like to revisit and go into more detail about possibly some previous campaigns we've done or some activity that we've generated. Also best practices for different sections, such as P per C or for identifying target markets.
Yes, thank you, Will. And yeah, just maybe what we should do is to open the phone lines actually, in case people are wanting to ask. Oh, here we have some chat already. So feel free to jump in with any questions or comments on what you've heard. And then I said there's plans to hold more sessions like this that go a bit deeper into I think social media and things like that we will cover. And we will share the presentation and the recording as well. So and the recordings will then be merged together so that you can see all the sessions end to end once they have all been delivered. But we will share the slides and also the recording short term to those that were registered here at the session.
Yes, they will be in the Autodesk community area and then also on YouTube as well.
So while we wait for any further questions, I just wanted to pick up on one of the last points that Will made about KnowledgePoint's website. So I know several of you were actually in this webinar we had 2 weeks ago where I briefly mentioned that as well. But we are rebuilding our website. There will be a customer-focused section on that website. And a great way of getting people excited about training is, of course, to tell them about the training providers. So there is a short form with some information on your business that we'd like to kind of have those that are interested in that fill in. It shouldn't take up a lot of your time at all. And then with that information, we can start featuring your business on the website. And it's I think a nice additional way of maybe reaching some new users. We are not replacing the Autodesk locator, for example, just so that's clear. I had a question about that from the last webinar. So any Autodesk partner is still listed on the Autodesk website with their locator that they have there. So this is in addition to that. So this is on KnowledgePoint's website, and so look at it as some additional traffic. So just wanted to throw that in there, and once you've decided that you want to be part of that, then drop me an email. I think everyone on this list has my email address, and then I can support you with the next steps.
So just to answer the question about will we be providing some sort of marketing material for partner communications, we have a very new exciting campaign coming out called Future Skills, which will be end of February, early March. And I think this will be valuable content for a lot of people here. It's a campaign about the skills that will be leading the future of business and the research that KnowledgePoint has done around those. So it's important to make sure you're up to date on our website and follow us on LinkedIn, as a lot of information and research will be posted about this, which you'll be able to reshare in blog formats, press releases, social media content, and on your website. So that will be provided very shortly.
Okay, excellent. So a few good questions. I know it can sometimes be difficult, right? And when you've heard a lot of good information like this to digest it. So we are kind of coming up to the end of this half hour. The intention with these sessions was that we would stay on time this time. And I think Will did a good job compared to me in the last webinar when I just kept on going. So I think we will look to maybe round off now if we don't have any further questions, but we will share the recording. It will be on Partner Portal, as Will said. And then look out for, I think in 2 weeks, we have the next session that we already announced. So that will have some additional content in it if you want to join us live. And feel free to drop any questions to me, and I'll loop in Will when he's if there's something that needs his expertise on that. So thank you, Will, for sharing all that good information, and thank you everyone for attending.
That's all right. Just as a final point, I think it's important to, as you said, view it as building blocks. So make sure you do start with your target market and your target market personas. You can't just jump straight into promotion if you don't have this, as you may just sort of be flailing in the wind and not actually targeting the right market. So make sure you build upon and engage that way. So thank you very much for everyone for joining.